Hey, you want to see something really scary?
What's your favorite scary movie?
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
What was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Welcome to Fright Night.
Welcome back to Jump Scare. I'm Betty.
And I'm Shad. This week we are joined by writer-director Julia Max, who is here with us to talk about her first feature, The Surrender. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Now, this is going to be airing on Shudder on May 23rd, which will be the same day this is out, Friday.
Yes. Everyone go check out the movie after listening to this.
Yes, please. So obviously this is a, one location film.
Mm-hmm.
And
is working in one location easier or more difficult creatively?
I mean, I think there are definitely challenges with working in one location, but personally, I really enjoyed it because we just got to take over that house and really make it our own. We shot this at the Bodie House at Descanso Gardens, which is just the best location you could ever ask for. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, there is something about spending each and every day there where it really feels like your home. And I know that really helped Kate and Colby in their performances because the space felt very lived in.
When you were writing the script, did you envision it at this house and how did that come to be that you guys were able to film there? Because I know that they're pretty exclusive.
That is a great question. No, initially I thought we were not going to be able to afford anything other than shooting at my mom's house. So thankfully that was not the case, although she is such a trooper and she probably would have been game for it. But we actually had a wild roller coaster. We were planning on shooting this in Washington. And then that fell through, and we pivoted to Kentucky, and then that fell through, and we were like, "Oh my God, we're just not going to be able to make this movie. There's nowhere else to go." And luckily, our producer, Level Holder, was like, "Okay, just give me a night. I'm pretty sure we can make this work in LA." And I was like, "Oh, that's impossible. Surely not." But him and our other producer, Mia, spent all night working on it, and the next day they had a new budget, and they're like, this is actually possible. We can do it. And honestly, it was such a dream come true. Lovell had he's on the board at Sconzo Gardens, so he was able to get us a really fantastic deal on it. And that's the only reason we were able to shoot in LA.
Wow, well, that worked out great.
Yeah, that was incredibly lucky. So that is all Lovell Holder. He is a champion.
Yeah, I definitely feel that the house does play it's its own character, especially towards the end when you have that isolation in the room. It's gorgeous. And then all the scenes, I want to say past and present, but the past scenes with father and daughter, it just looks so dreamy. The gardens are just gorgeous.
Oh, it's a wonderful set. Have you ever been to Descanso Gardens?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, you've got to check it out. It's stunning. You can actually go into the Bodie house. They let people walk around the bottom floor, and it's beautiful. And you will see when you go there that there is not a stick of furniture in it. So, our production designer was phenomenal at making that feel very lived in and cluttered.
Yeah, that's insane because it does look like people live in the house.
Yeah.
It's massive. It is a massive house. We actually tried to actively make it look smaller than it really is. Because
And then you guys were able to film on the second floor in the house, which is closed off usually.
Yes. Normally that's closed off, but we were very lucky that we were able to shoot up there. We had been told oh, it's not renovated, so I'm not sure if you can really use any of this. And I was expecting it to be just a total shit show up there. And when we walked up, it had all this gorgeous wallpaper and was beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Yeah, that's what they consider not renovated.
Yeah, right. I was like, I wish my place looked this
Yeah.
good.
I guess we should give a little bit of synopsis, have you give a little synopsis what the film is about. So if you can tell us a little bit about it for everybody that's listening.
So this film, just to give you a little backstory too, was loosely inspired by what my mother and I went through when my stepfather passed away. It didn't get nearly as crazy as the movie does, but it was definitely the inspiration for this. And so the film is all about this mother-daughter relationship, um, as the patriarch of the family is passing away, and the mother has a really difficult time letting go, and so she enlists the help of this mysterious stranger to lead them in a bizarre and brutal resurrection ritual, which goes horribly awry, as you can imagine. Um, but yeah, it becomes quite a roller coaster ride.
Now, I was going to ask you, we watch this and the rituals are very, they're very detailed, they're very intense. Were they based on anything in real life, or was this all just you? I mean, did you, I did, is this something like, obviously not real, but you know what I mean? Was this
Absolutely.
something that you,
I mean, I did a lot of research when I was writing this, just looking into different cultures and the practices of how they bury the dead, like what they do, because it is I find it was very therapeutic to actually dig into all of this when I was kind of in the midst of my grief, because it makes you feel less alone when you get to learn about other cultures and ways that they mourn, you know. But I didn't want it to feel too tied to any one specific thing, so I kind of pulled from a lot of different places. In terms of like one of the things that my mother and I did, she hired a death doula when my stepfather passed away, and I had no idea what that was, and that was the big inspiration for this movie, being like, what's the worst case scenario of what that would be? But one of the things we did do was the cleansing of the body, which sounded really creepy to me and scary at first, and I was not on board. But when we did that, it was actually so comforting and such a release because you're paying respect to the body that has housed this person that you've loved and known your whole life. You know, so I find it really fascinating how so many of the things that on the surface seem scary or weird are actually incredibly comforting when you're going through it.
When I'm so sorry, Colby Menifee plays Megan, the daughter. When she arrives and she tells her mom, who's being played by Kate Burton, Barbara's her name in the film, she tells her mom to go relax, to take a rest, that she'll take over. And she's in the room and she starts. I was so upset because I wouldn't say I am pagan, so I understand, the reason for certain things that there were in the room. And when she's removing the crystals off the table and goes under the bed and takes the teeth, out and removes it and is just throwing stuff away and just looking at the smudging, she's the smudge stick, and she's like, I was literally screaming at the screen. I was like, why would you do that? That's so disrespectful. She has that there for a reason. I was so mad.
That was your response. That's awesome. Yes, I mean, I think it is so interesting. The thing I love about this film is that I really don't think there are any villains in the story. You just have two people who are really struggling their best, to do their best in the midst of an impossible situation. And that is one of the things that's so challenging is just the two of them struggling to kind of control the situation in a way that feels right to them, even though it juxtaposes with what the other thinks is the right way to handle it.
Yeah, I have to say that I want to commend you. Obviously, you are a daughter. So, writing a mother-daughter relationship, everyone that is a mother or a daughter would be able to relate to these characters because it's so spot on. I saw myself in kind of both of the characters. They're similar in certain ways and so different in other ways, and how they butt heads. But at the end of the day, like you said, there isn't a villain. They're both just dealing with this massive grief. I, as a wife, trying to think what I do when you are in that grief, you are just not really thinking straight. You are so overwhelmed with emotion and just it's just very stressful to be in that scenario. Unfortunately, it kind of we kind of I don't understand it completely. My both of my parents are still here with us, but unfortunately, Shad's mom had passed of cancer, so I had to see him and help him with those struggles and being able to see that on screen. It was just it played all over again because it's so real, even though the ritualistic aspects of the film are not real. The grief is just so spot on, and also the relationships between all the characters, especially with how the daughter sees the relationship that she has that her parents had, and how that's so skewed, and how the mother actually has her own perspective on the matter. There's so many different layers there, and it was just beautiful to just see it all play out, in the midst of all these horrific things that are happening later on in the film when you get to the nitty-gritty of it, of the horror portion, but the distress of the grief is the most horrific part.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. I certainly think so. I mean, I think, yeah, the grief is, it's such a roller coaster, and it's not just one clear straight line. One of the things I really wanted to capture in this is that feeling of having no emotional filter.
Yeah.
Everything so raw. So every emotion that like bubbles up or passes through, like it just gets so heightened, in this kind of very raw state that you're in. And so it was really important for me to show that, because I feel like so frequently we see, these kind of one note monotone versions of grief. And I don't think it's that simple, you
No.
know.
Yeah,
I
it never is.
Yeah, it's you're just constant up and down. I mean, the like the moment where they're closing the father's jaw and his eyes, so before the rigor mortis sets in, that really happened. And my mom and I, like, it was so upsetting, and yet we couldn't stop laughing at the same time. And it was just the most surreal moment, because I was so concerned about hurting him, even though I'm like, he's not feeling this. But oh gosh, it is,
You're
yeah,
still just so hesitant because you're still in your mind. They're still there.
yeah,
They're gone, but you're still looking at them, so you still are worried about, like, are they comfortable? Like, make their head look correct. Yeah, I know what you mean.
none of it feels real. I feel like, I mean, gosh, it's been 5 years now. It still doesn't fully real to me at times. I still feel like, oh, he's just on location filming something.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It's been 6 years for me, and I still feel, you have that feeling like, oh, you still need to go do this, you need to go see them or whatever, it still pops up in my head sometimes.
Yeah. Or you have just a very vivid dream one night, and you wake up and you forget.
Yeah.
You just forget that they're not there. And it's such a like, oh, right. And it all just comes back. I think that's one of the really interesting processes of grieving, is that it's never done. Like it doesn't ever end. It's just there forever.
There's no completion date on that.
Exactly. Yeah, and so that this film was very much a you know a nice therapy session for me in analyzing a lot of these feelings. But I think the largest takeaway was putting myself in my mom's position a little bit more, and thinking about it from her perspective and where she's coming from, because I think losing a partner, losing a husband is very different than losing a father. And I hadn't quite realized what that difference was until I started writing this.
Yeah, and then you start to get some clarity on it.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for us to see our parents as, actual people outside of us. We cast them in these roles as like they're our parents. But I think it's really important to try and step back sometimes and look at them as actual people.
Yeah. And you forget that because you're still a little kid in some ways in your mind with them, you know?
I mean, aren't we all little
Yeah.
kids in some ways when it comes to our parents?
Yeah, you still don't quite see them the way everybody else does, you know?
Yeah, I love my mom so much, but there are absolutely times when she knows exactly how to press my buttons, and I am like a teenager all over again.
For sure.
You
Uh,
know, they know how to trigger us like that.
Now you worked with some pretty experienced actors in this, like Kate Burton and Vaughn Armstrong. What was the collaborative process like with them? Were they pretty open to things, or
Oh,
how was
they
it with
were
them?
absolutely wonderful. I mean, Kate and Colby were just such a powerhouse duo in this film. They were absolute dreams. And Vaughn, oh my gosh, just what a sweetheart and so down for anything. I mean, my God, he's amazing. And we also had Neil Sandilands, who, goodness, that poor guy. He was traveling all the way from Cape Town, and after like 26 hours of traveling, came to set and was just amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Like, yeah, so we truly had such a fantastic cast, and I think the reason the film works is because all of them committed so fully.
Definitely.
Yeah, because like Vaughn Armstrong, he had an easy and a hard job at the same time. He had to just lay there, which is easier in some ways, but also harder because you can't do anything. You're not interacting with anyone. You just have to be there. And I've always I'm a big Star Trek fan as well, and he's been in a ton of that over the years. So it was nice to see him doing a little bit different part and out of makeup. He's been in a lot of makeup over the years, so
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
yeah. So
It's
it was
a
nice to see him.
he's incredible. And I think one of the really challenging things about the role that he did so beautifully is that in those sequences that Colby has with him where she's talking to the idea of her father after he passes. I told Vaughn up front, I was like, look, this is really hard because you don't have a lot of time to really sell that relationship.
Hmm.
But I think he did a wonderful job. And you see their chemistry and their relationship and how different it is from Colby's relationship with her mother, and I think that only worked because Vaughn was so compelling and so loving, and you could just feel that warmth coming off of him.
Yeah, he did a great job because you could just feel the difference in the chemistry between him and her, and then her and the mom. Yeah, he really sold that.
Yeah, he's wonderful. Oh, I love him so much.
Uh, the other thing we were going to ask you was, it looks like, from what we could tell, like the most of the effects on this were done practically.
Yeah, we had a fantastic special effects team. Russell Effects, who did they did my last short pieces of me, and so I was very lucky that they were willing to work on this because they just come off like Hellraiser, and I was like, oh, are you
Yeah.
really low budget? But yeah, they're amazing. Sierra Spence kind of led the charge on this, and she is just, oh, she's so phenomenal. Yeah, just so talented, so wonderful to collaborate with. It was such a joy working with her on this.
I was
And
going to
I
ask. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think they nailed it because, when we submitted this to South by, we had only just picture locked. So we didn't have any real VFX. We didn't have the score, the sound mix, the color, any of that. But because their practical effects were so incredible, it was enough to kind of sell what was going on at every step of the way. So kudos to them.
Yeah, they did a great job with it. Did you work with them on the look of the things, or did you just kind of let them decide what it was going to look like?
Yeah, they were they were such troopers. Initially, I had this whole idea direction that I wanted to take the kind of creature looks, and I wanted to make it more of this I wanted it to tie into like the river Styx and have this kind of underwater thing vibe
Oh
going
yeah.
on. And then I went to their studio, which is so cool, by the way. It's just loads of dead bodies and giant cockroaches and
Amazing.
aliens hanging everywhere. It's amazing. And I saw that they were working on several other films, and their other projects had very similar vibes. And I realized, like, oh, shoot, this is one of those things that's just in the zeitgeist right now. And we're just kind of falling into the same trap that a lot of other people are. And so I was like, oh, crap, let me think. Let me take the weekend to rethink this and see if there's a different direction we can go. And my husband, who's also a producer on this, Ian McDonald, we spent the weekend like looking into medieval paintings and like Bosch paintings and just trying to find inspiration from elsewhere. And we came up with this idea, and I took it to Sierra and was just like, okay, I know this is taking things in a different direction than we initially discussed, but what if we were to do something a little more like this? Would you be down for that? And she was like, I love it. Let's do it. And oh my gosh. And within like 2 days, Cat Calico was just molding a new piece and it was perfect. And I was like, yep, nailed it.
Now, besides the last minute location change, which worked out pretty well, what were some other kind of challenges you had to overcome while you were filming this?
Oh boy. There's so many challenges along the way. I think one of the challenging things that I think ended up actually making the film better was at one point we thought we were going to lose Vaughn for scheduling reasons, and so one day when we're on set, I was told like, "Oh, this might be Vaughn's last day," and I was like, "Wait, what? Oh no, we have so much more to shoot with him." Luckily we'd shot all of him alive, and so but it was all the dead stuff and when getting into the third act and all of that stuff that I was like, oh crap, what do we do? And we didn't know for sure if we were going to lose him or not, but we needed to start thinking of things to prepare ourselves in case that did happen. And so the idea that I came up with was to introduce the shroud that we put over his face,
Okay.
which is a common practice in a lot of cultures to put a
Yeah.
shroud over. And so I was like, okay, we'll put a shroud on over his face, and that way, if we do have to replace him, we can get a body double, and we won't have to try to, do crazy CGI work on his face. And luckily, he was able to stay with us for the rest of the shoot, but we did keep the shroud in there, and I'm really glad we did because I actually really loved that piece, and we wouldn't have had it if we didn't encounter that scary moment of thinking we were going to lose him.
Yeah, it actually worked out really well. That made kind of added a little bit more creepiness to it with the shroud, and like you said, that is pretty common practice among different cultures, so it made sense.
Exactly. So, sometimes I do think that sometimes those roadblocks that you hit along the way actually lead to more interesting filmmaking.
Yeah, it forces you to be a little more creative in the moment, and then it works out better in the long run.
Exactly.
I have two, well, one might be a statement, but two questions before we wrap up. One, kind of playing on the shroud, the set design, which we kind of touched based on earlier, with the furniture, the vanity. As soon as I saw the vanity, and this is just one, I love antique pieces. And two, when I see a vanity like that in a film, I'm like, oh, haunted. Like there's going to be something weird that's going to happen because that vanity is so old. And I love that you used it. It was used in a transition or a doorway to this place that they end up in. I did not expect when she was taking the floorboards apart that that's where she was going to come out of. So that was amazing. And kudos to the team who thought getting this piece. Because you see them once in a while. I'll see them, at the different thrift stores and whatnot. And I'm always like, kind of like, I would love one, but at the same time, content. I don't know. And then, oh, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
was gonna say too, I love the part where they're in the other place, but yet the floor inside the circle stayed.
Oh, yes.
That was a great touch. It really, showed you just how much they had transitioned. They just took the floor with them, you
Yeah,
know.
because it's
That
out of
was
bounds of the circle that is
Yeah,
where the
that
darkness lies,
I
but
I
they're still
love that.
maintained.
I've never seen that. We've obviously seen a lot of horror movies, and I've never seen that where they transport in the circle and the floor comes with them like that. That was a really great touch.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it was very funny. This was very much an all hands on deck film because it was a low budget. And so the that floor piece that you're talking about was actually built by my father-in-law, Mike McDonald. Yeah, he flew out from Maine to help us out and built that. And we were so grateful to him for helping
Well,
us.
it's gorgeous. And you don't even I don't even think like, oh, that's like a separate piece or that's filmed somewhere else. I'm thinking like, oh, that's exactly where they're
Yeah, it looks
at,
like it really looked great. It looked like you just cut the floor out and took it with you.
So kudos to him. And then the second thing, which is probably it's a weird question. You probably don't have an answer, or maybe you do. Now the now when we have Megan there and she's alone, and all of a sudden she starts kind of hearing like the shuffle and she sees, the beady, glowy eyes come, and there's all these individuals that are passing through. Are those individuals passing through because, and they're all nude, like her father was during this ritual? Are they all passing through because they're being called upon to be part of a similar ritual elsewhere? Or they just happen to just be passing through, and there's no really meaning behind it?
I love that interpretation. That is very cool. I haven't heard that before, but I like that interpretation. I mean, I like a lot to leave these things a bit open-ended so you can get these really cool interpretations that I
Yes,
did.
like the ending. It's pretty ambiguous.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I saw them as we called them the lost souls. And I saw them as kind of this horde of lost souls that was kind of wandering for all eternity,
Hmm.
just shuffling through this space. That's why they're all like caked and like dirt and mud from years and centuries of traveling through this just kind of never-ending purgatory in a way.
Okay, okay. I like the sense. I didn't know there was going to be an answer, so if there wasn't, I was fine. I was going to go with my take on it.
You know what? That being said, I do love your interpretation. I think that's really cool. And so I might be stealing that moving forward.
Go ahead. Either one, I love either one, so either one I can live with. And then the ending is kind of reminiscent to me of what is that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and the little twisty thing,
The
Christopher Nolan,
Inception.
Inception, where it's like, did it happen? Was that the last surrender? Did she make it through? So I'm not going to ask you if she did. I can live with an open-ended thing, however you interpret it. I'm going to go with yes, only because there was forgiveness and she was able to release that. And she thought it was going to be a physical release, which would be her fingers, a sacrifice, but
It could have
that
been an emotional surrender too.
exactly. So I'm going to stay with that end, and I overall the film was a great film. And there in the recent, I would probably say like couple of years, grief has been so it's been in the horror genre
Yeah.
more often than it has been before, which is crazy to think like, okay, grief has been something that people have gone through since the end of time. So why are we now visiting this in this genre when it is something that is so distressing? Um, but it's good to see, everyone's different take because grief is different for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting because I do feel like in some ways grief is just naturally baked into the horror genre because anytime you're dealing with a movie in which someone dies, it's like there is an element of grief there for the people left behind. But it is interesting that as of late there have has definitely been more of a shift to really explore that grief in more detail. Just because the grief itself is actually quite horrifying.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you again. The Surrender will be airing starting the 23rd, which is today, the day this comes out. And please check it out. It's definitely worth watching.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you so much, and stay tuned to the horror.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.